So this is my Hutch double wall fireplace insert. Recently I made a video where I looked at cleaning and lubricating and fixing up the blower assembly there, and part of that process I repainted it because it had some rust and some peeling paint on there. So while I had it apart, I figured I'd paint it. Unfortunately, that made the rest of the fireplace insert look a little bit old. I mean, this thing is over 30 years old. Anyway, I thought I would try cleaning the outside of this up and repainting it. So part of the thing is there's a lot of trim on here. So this was the trim piece that was up on the very top here. On mine, this just pulled right off. Right over here were the side vents, and there's an expanded steel grill, and then this seems to be brass. I checked and it's not magnetic. And this was the last piece I need to get off. And on mine, this was really tight. So what I've got was one of these pry bars. And I have a block of wood there just to get it spaced out a little bit. And there's a lip in there that you can catch. There's two lips, so you have to get on the second one. Yeah, because there's a metal lip inside here. And then this piece fits around that metal lip. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, you can see that piece just fits on there. Might need to clean that up a little bit. I guess that's where the air comes out. So yeah, I guess the way this works is the blower is inside that bottom housing I showed you in the previous video. It sucks air in both sides on the bottom and then blows it out that center vent. Goes around the firebox, and then it comes out these two side vents and then this top vent. The doors just lift off here. They will come off real easy, so I'll probably do those separate. The only other thing I've done on this insert since I purchased it was I had to replace these door gaskets, so I just got some braided fiberglass gasket material, and then I just used some of that red high temperature silicone, and I just ran a bead of that around the outside of the door, and then put the gasket, stuck it into that material, and then just shut the door and flipped the latch over, and that held the gasket material in place until the adhesive set. I went one size up from whatever was in the door originally, so I put a little bit thicker gasket in there, and that's worked pretty well. Cordless angle grinder here with a wire wheel on it, and let's just see what this does here. See how the paint's really got thin there. It comes right off. Yeah, I think I'll just go around, hit all the spots there, especially this front area here. I guess that's where it gets the hottest, and get that all wire brushed off. Okay, I think I got the insert pretty much cleaned up. I have a wood block here with some sandpaper, and I hit the rusty areas right here on the top. There was a little bit on the front, on the vent there, and then down here. Just went over it with some sandpaper, and then I tried cleaning it. I went with some denatured alcohol and just completely soaked a couple of rags. Then I tried it with some degreaser spray and soaked a couple more. I don't think it's really dirt, it's more like oxidized paint. The more you scrub it, the more paint. You can see how it's really come off of the top of that vent there. So what I found worked the best was just get a bucket, and at first I had water and then some dishwashing soap, and went over with a scrubbing brush and then cleaned it up with a sponge like that. And I've changed the water out a couple of times already. You can see how dirty it gets just from wiping the thing down. I'll probably do one or two more bucketfuls of water, just rinse it down. Yeah, so still drying. I was just curious here. Yeah, that's 1/4 inch thick steel plate that this thing's made out of, that whole front anyway. And I think the firebox is all out of that same thickness. So that's a big, heavy piece of steel there. And those doors are solid cast iron. They're really heavy. I've got them outside. I definitely like having this here. This is my backup heat. Right now it is plugged into the wall. It's using grid power with the power cord there, but I could hook this into my solar power inverter, so if the power were to go off, I could run this thing. It takes a little over 100 watts to run the fan, and I would have heat in the house. That's assuming the solar heat wouldn't be working. Maybe there was a long stormy period, a week long, like we had back in January. We had about a week where there was no solar heat. I didn't run a fire in here just because it was a rather warm storm, so it didn't get all that cold in the house. I have solar heat for primary heating. This is my backup heat. And then my third level of heat is a natural gas furnace, which hasn't been run to heat the house in well over a decade. So I like having multiple sources of heat. I mean, if the gas service is cut, I can't use the furnace, but I've still got two versions of heat. I can do the solar heat is totally off grid. If it's not sunny, I can run the fireplace, and if need be, I can power it off grid. I usually just power it on the grid just because it's easy to do, and I usually let this run overnight. And this thing can run all night on about 10-15 cents worth of electricity. On the flip side, my furnace would cost $1 to run it for 1 hour just in natural gas, and then the blower in the furnace probably uses 500 watts of power. So this thing uses maybe a quarter of the power of the blower in the furnace, and the fuel doesn't cost anything. So yeah, I believe in having multiple sources of heat. Okay, YouTube, we got the fireplace insert painted there. I just used some old paper grocery bags that stuff in around the gap between the fireplace and the insert. And then I just cut a piece of cardboard to fit in around the curved part there. And then I can paint this side and then take the cardboard, flip it over and paint the other side. And yeah, I did 2 coats of paint. I let it dry, an hour, hour and a half in between coats. Yeah, so anyway, the paint is nice and dry. It's looking like maybe next weekend we're going to have like a day or two of cloudy, rainy weather. So usually when that happens, I don't get any solar heat, but when it's stormy, they allow wood fires with the air quality district. And then hopefully we can light a fire in here, get the paint cured off. So let me show you the doors. I got the doors outside. I just got them painted too. So I took the 2 insert doors outside here, wire brushed them up, and got into all the little nooks and crannies with a small wire brush, and then took off all the hardware. So I've got the hinge pins and also the air screws there off, and I cut a couple of little cardboard templates there to cover up the glass and just held those down with a weight while I painted them here. So those should be ready to go, and got the brass part here covered on the handles so I didn't get paint on that, and gave these guys 2 coats. I'm going to let them dry here out in the sun today. So I think that turned out pretty good. Amazing how heavy these doors are. They're just solid cast iron. It's like 2 hands to pick these doors up. They're massively heavy. Just solid inch-thick cast iron. Once the paint sets up a little bit, I'm going to flip them over and finish cleaning off the glass on the back side. I scraped off most of the soot and whatnot that's on there, but I think I'll just give it a rub down with glass cleaner, or if I have to use some degreaser, I'll play around with that. I figured I would do that later. I did wire brush off all the loose deposits on the back side. Okay, we got the fireplace insert all finished up. I let the paint dry for a week and a half, and we're finally getting some stormy, cloudy weather. So we've got a pretty good wind blowing tonight. It's supposed to rain overnight and then be cold in the morning, so I figured this would be a perfect time to run the fireplace, get it heated up. So the paint's supposed to get up to around 250 Fahrenheit for roughly an hour. I showed you some still images. I threw the 2 doors in my gas grill the other weekend and put 2 burners on low, and that kept the temperature in the grill to about right around 250. So I left them in there for about an hour with the grill on, and then I turned the burners off and let them cool down for a couple hours. So one thing you might be able to see, the blower I did with a flat black enamel. The fireplace insert itself is with the flat black high temperature, and there's a slight grayish tint to the fireplace insert. So the colors don't match perfectly, but I think over time the blower box tends to get covered with ashes when you throw wood in, and when you clean out the firebox, you get the ashes over the paint. And usually I'll just brush it off with my broom, but that'll leave kind of a light dusting of ash on there. So I think by the time this gets covered with some ashes a few times, the paint will be pretty similar color. Oh, there we go. 270. There's 230, 220. Yeah, it's only 120 up on top. Really happy with the way the paint turned out. One thing I did do is I put some silver high temperature paint on the air damper knob there. Give it a little contrast. Really happy with the blower. It's super quiet. Before, it used to be a real loud buzzing sound, really heavy vibration. And let's just try the other speeds here. There's medium. That was medium and high. I usually run this on low speed. I'll leave this running all night, and then after the fire goes out and the firebox cools down, the fan shuts off. Yeah, this is probably about like it was the day it was installed. That was back in the late 1980s, and now it's working just as good as new. So yeah, if you have one of these inserts, it's not terribly hard to clean up, and then just get some high temperature paint or barbecue paint. That would be the other thing you could use. Yeah, so really happy with the way the paint turned out. Really happy with the blower now that I got that cleaned out and lubricated. So hopefully it'll last another 30 plus years, and then somebody else can take over with it. It'll probably be outlawed by that time. I used to heat the house entirely with this back in the day. Now this is the first fire I've had this heating season. Really didn't need to run it tonight, but I just wanted to get the paint cured, and it was a reasonably cold night. Anyway, if you have any questions about that, post up in the comment section down below. And as always, thanks for watching.